Hi, Kundan. Thank you so much for coming to the Immipreneur podcast. I'm so excited to hear all about your journey. So, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Really excited to be here. Thank you for having me. And yeah, looking forward to having a good chat.
Perfect. Let's jump right into it. And my first set of questions is about your background and experience. So, the immigrant entrepreneurs in our audience can understand who you are, where you're coming from, and how you got started. Then we will jump into your thoughts about what you would do if you had to start all over again when it comes to starting business in Canada. So, our audience can understand how they can apply what you have learned to their situations in today's world. So, could you tell us a little bit about yourself in terms of background, education, and experience, where you're coming from, and when did you come to Canada?
Sure. Yeah. So I came to Canada 21 years back in 2000, Y2K. Yeah, I mean, I had finished I was born and brought up in Mumbai, India. I finished did my first year all the way to first year engineering in India. My parents moved here as immigrants to Canada. I joined them in my second year. I got I got into Western University, then University of Western Ontario. I got into software engineering. Didn't get into second year. I had to repeat the first year. But yeah, I mean, so that's what I did. I mean, wanted to be a programmer. Wasn't exposed to entrepreneurship directly as such at that point, and yeah, and it's been great. 21 years in Canada so far.
Nice. Could you tell us a little bit about your company and how did you got it started?
Yeah, so I mean, my entrepreneurial journey started in university itself, where a sales job during summer converted into an entrepreneurship opportunity because I wanted to continue working from them, but not in Toronto, where my summer job was, but in London. So I offered that I open up a branch for them, and sort of that's how it started. And I was exposed to entrepreneurship, and I loved it, and I realized that's what I'm going to do. After graduation, I moonlighted. So while I was working full time for Bell Canada and Ministry of Education and a bunch of other jobs as a software engineer, in the evenings I was moonlighting, starting up multiple ventures, trying to get clients. Started a digital agency. Then in 2007 is when App Lab actually got started. I went to a conference. I had a smartphone in my hands, not iPhone, but iPhone wasn't born then yet. It was a Windows smartphone, I believe. And I just realized this is the future of experiences when it comes to experiencing software. And I was big about creating great experiences, sort of the left brain, right brain combination, something that's creative, something that's useful and usable, but at the same time high in terms of technology innovation. So when I held the smartphone for the first time, I just something in me told me this is the future of how software should be built, how software can be made accessible, can spread like wildfire, and I decided to focus just on it. So I mean, I started going to a lot of events, networking, talking to a lot of people that have they heard about apps. In some cases, spent a couple of hours just explaining what an app was. It sounds bizarre in today's world, but yeah, I got into the app store, first app store for few of the clients. At that time, was working from my basement, building these apps to 13 years onwards from now, where we're more than 150 people building apps,
Wow.
more than 600 customers across the world, there are no signs of stopping.
Exciting journey. What challenges did you face early on when you started your company?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I mean, as a new immigrant, there are certain challenges that are inherent. I mean, one of them is easy. I mean, no network. So how do you go about building that network in the new country? Luckily, on my side, I was fairly social. I loved people. I loved meeting people. So right from university days, I was sort of the popular guy on campus who wanted to talk to everyone and build a network. I was president of a few associations, from the Technology Association to the Indian Association. So started getting to know a lot of people. I was very curious, obviously, being new to the country. I just wanted to learn more about the culture, learn more about the new people I'm about to meet. So with a very open mind, I was just able to make a lot of friends. And then after I graduated, again, it was London. In Toronto, not all the friends I made in London came to Toronto. I had a few friends, but in a way, I had to build that professional network all over again after my graduation. So yeah, I started networking, started volunteering from Indo-Canada Chamber of Commerce, where I was to various music festivals, and I mean the list goes on. I was just whatever opportunity I could find to meet people, to volunteer, to learn from people, I took that up. So that's how I sort of so no network challenge was solved through that. The other was obviously I was a new immigrant, wanted to pay off my OSAP, wanted to support my family, so didn't have savings, didn't have any capital to bank onto. So yeah, so I had to create my own source of capital. I didn't have a great credit history at that point. I didn't know anything about building a credit history, to be very honest. If I had known, I would have taken proactive steps, or if I had known that I how important it is to be proactive in life, I would have thought about being proactive. Uh, but neither of those were the case. So didn't necessarily could rely on banks or get any loans or even credit or any major credit balances, to be very honest. So yeah, so I had to figure it out, hustle it out, get one client at a time, make sure that if with every client I was able to get some revenue in, use that revenue for to invest in the business, continue getting the next client, and keep on going in the same set. The other aspect I would say is cultural barriers, right? I mean, new to the country, I mean, there's a lot of fear of unknown on both sides, right? There's fear of unknown from your side that you're not sure in terms of certain cultural barriers. You are judging in terms of certain cultures or your perception of certain cultures. And there's a lot of fear of judgment, right? Where you feel that you are being judged. In many cases, you are being judged, but that affects you and you let that affect you in essence. So those barriers are very, very important to overcome. Initially, I felt that in terms of mainstream cultures, it was hard for me to get business. And because I felt that, I presented a bit different way and made it even more difficult for me to get business in the same way. It was very difficult for me to hire employees who were from the mainstream culture, and that became a barrier for me as well. And slowly over the time, over the course, I had to resolve those barriers, which a lot of them was inside as opposed to outside. And even if it's outside, what do you make of it? It becomes very important. And how do you filter that off to really focus on what's important? So yeah, so those were, I would say, the main challenges which I had to yeah, find a solution to. And as an entrepreneur, just as an entrepreneur, it's not an easy journey. So whether you're like new immigrant, just becomes that additional filter on top of it, which makes it a bit challenging. And if you're a young immigrant entrepreneur, there are other sets of filters which come with experience and so on. And that was one of the aspects. I didn't have experience. I really wanted to do a double major with my software engineering and business. It was too expensive. I couldn't afford it, so I didn't do it at that time. So I mean, I didn't have that experience in business. I didn't have that experience even in technology. I did as a software engineer for a few years, but I didn't have that thorough experience as an entrepreneur. So again, that was the experience was the other barrier. And again, that's not typical to an immigrant, but definitely to a young new graduate or a young professional sort of trying to make or young entrepreneur trying to make on its own. And just as an entrepreneur, regardless of what age you are in, there will be certain barriers of raising capital, hiring people, creating a culture, getting business, all of those challenges you have to face, obviously. And what I mean, the biggest lesson through all of that is how do you incorporate a mindset that allows you to be open, to be learning, a constant student, and and not make too much of it. I mean, yeah, it might seem daunting when you get started on it, but if you just take it one day at a time, one step at a time, it's not that difficult.
Definitely. Thanks for sharing that. And I really believe that the mindset is everything, especially when you come from another country and you want to deal with a lot of barriers. You have to have a right mindset to overcome those challenges.
Certainly.
No, you won, Kundan, you won multiple prestigious entrepreneurs awards. What did you give up for achieving this level of success?
Yeah, so I mean, initially to get started with the business, there were certain things I gave up, and then throughout the journey, there are certain things which are more so, again, barriers from the mindset point of view, that I continue to give up, and I'm happy I did that. So to begin with, to get started, I mean, as you know, I started moonlighting. So I was working 9 to 5 at a job, and then 5 to God knows how long, 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., whatever it took. I was working on my business initially. So obviously I was very passionate. I was very motivated to be successful. I was very ambitious. So that meant I had to give up laziness. I couldn't afford to say, it's a weekend. Let me relax this weekend. Let me take it easy. And in the you, I mean, when you're young, I mean, you have that energy, and I mean, instead of utilizing the energy in things that are not aligned to your goals, I just made sure I aligned them towards my goals, and I wasted as less energy as possible on things that were not important, right? And there were times where I wasted things on energy and my energy on things that were not important, and having that reflection and realizing that, yeah, I'm wasting my time here. Let me push it here, and because this is the direction I want to pursue. So understanding that was very important, obviously. So yeah, gave up laziness. One thing is for sure, I gave up negativity. I was extremely positive. I mean, regardless of whatever the challenges were, and they seemed daunting in many cases. But yeah, I think my positivity was very important. So giving up negativity was very important for me. To give up negativity regarding thoughts, regarding outcomes, regarding people, so on and so forth, right? Then throughout the journey, right, there are a bunch of different aspects. I mean, one I would say is at that time I gave up sleep, right? I was barely sleeping, I don't know, 2 3 hours every night. To be very honest, across my journey, I've realized that was not the right decision. I've regained that. I've regained my sleep back now for the past few years, knowing that I mean, I enjoyed doing that, to be very honest. I mean, because I felt I was working hard. I felt that because I'm not sleeping, in a way, I'm sacrificing. And that sacrifice made me feel a bit entitled for success. Not necessarily
Mm.
entitled as in the state of mind of being entitled, but made me feel that I deserve success and I must have success and I demanded success in essence. And that was not necessarily the positive mindset I'm talking about or I talked about earlier, right? So it was important for me to realize that through the journey that I can't give up on sleep. I can't give up on things that are important to me, that fulfill my core need as an individual, as a human. So that realization was important, that yeah, no, sleep can give up things that matter, things that will bring out the the worst version of me, or the stress behavior, as I like to call it, of myself. And the stress behavior comes out anytime your own needs are not met. So understanding what those needs are, making sure they are being met proactively, not at the end of the day by binge watching or overeating or doing something like having alcohol that relieves your stress, but doing it at the beginning of the day proactively, like things like sleeping, like getting enough sleep, waking up early, and finding time to exercise and meditate and learn something new. Those things are important to proactively manage stress, because yeah, as an entrepreneur, as a new immigrant entrepreneur, as a new immigrant, as anyone, stress can
Yeah.
easily come to you because we live stressful lives. We live very fast-paced lives in any of those categories. So in essence, that covers everyone, and proactively managing that becomes very important, right? So yeah, no shame in admitting that that was a mistake at that point. Seemed right because I didn't know where I could find time. I had to obviously do a full-time job. I still wanted to make sure I'm paving this journey. So at that time, I didn't know where I could. But when I started on the journey of like when I gave up, like, hey, you know what? Let's give up the full-time job, right? And by giving up, that's another thing I had to give up at one point. Say, you know what? I had made myself, I had sort of given a target that I want 6 months of savings so that I can, before I give up my full-time job and get into it. Unfortunately for me, it didn't happen. I still recommend it to have that savings of 6 months. It didn't happen for me, didn't work out that way. I was never able to get enough savings. Something or the other kept coming up. And at one point I had to say, you know what? That's it. I have to back myself. I don't have the savings. Forget 6 months. I didn't even have savings for 1 month, but I had to believe in myself and say, you know what? Let's just do it. You've gathered enough experience now. You just have to hustle, find a way, and make it happen, right? So at that time, I gave up the full-time job, got into entrepreneurship. Now at that point, I could have said, hey, now let's work smartly, right? But by that time, I was in the habit of hustle in essence, right?
Yeah.
I had to work hard. That was me now. I had defined myself as this workaholic Kundan Joshi who has to work 20 hours a day, 22 hours a day in order to be successful, right? And the challenge with that was that had a huge impact with regards to the stress that had accumulated over me, right? So through the course, there were a lot of other things I had to give up in order to, in a way, almost relearn in certain cases, and other cases things that I didn't know of. And because I started focusing that, hey, who am I? How do I need to make sure I'm taking care of myself so that I'm able to, like, I had started realizing there were ceilings on top of me. How do I break through all those ceilings? Ceilings of what we talked about, each of these barriers, right? Oh man,
Yeah.
I don't think they want me to be successful, whoever they are. I don't know how I'm going to make it happen in the future. How am I going to continue on this journey? Or how do I overcome all these barriers as an entrepreneur, as a new immigrant, and all of that pressure in essence, right? So it's important to break those shackles. And for that, I'll say I had to break, first thing I had to give up was give up fear, which is very difficult as humans to do. But I had to
Yeah.
make a point. I'm giving up fear. And what am I giving up fear for? I had to be very specific on that and go under my skin to really understand what are the things that I'm really afraid of. I realized I'm really afraid of failure. I did not want to fail. I wanted everything to be perfect, but that's not possible. Perfection is not achievable by humans, and hence I was going in a war against impossible in essence. So I had to give up fear of failure. I had to give up fear of the unknown because there was a huge thing that, hey, I don't know the future, what happens in the future. There's a fear of unknown because you just don't know that you don't have any control over the future.
Exactly.
You can strategize as much as you want today, and that's very important. But you're doing that today. And when you've strategized, you put those goals, you've broken down into smaller goals. Now you focus on every single day. What are you going to do? What action are you going to bring in? Not worry about tomorrow. That's only going to bring that pressure, bring that fear. So I had to give up that fear of unknown, fear of the future.
Very important.
Also had to give up fear of judgment, which was extremely important. Now, by this time, there were a few years that I was a wanapreneur who was trying to be an entrepreneur, who was okay, successful, trying to drag it out, trying to figure out a way to live another day as an entrepreneur and whatnot. At that time, when you're saying, hey, I'm an entrepreneur or I'm on that journey, now you start like having those quotes of the perception that you're building for yourself, the image that you're building for yourself, and that fear of judgment of what will people feel if I fail, if I look a certain way, if I make a certain decision, if I make certain compromises, if I take a certain direction. And that fear of judgment, which you have no control of again. So controlling the uncontrollables is not the battle you want to pick. You want to pick
Really
the battle
important.
of
Really
controlling the
important.
controllables, right?
Exactly.
So So giving up that fear of judgment was extremely important. And what I realized, in order for me to truly give up fear of judgment, I had to first give up judging. Because if I'm judging others,
I
then
like that.
naturally that fear of judgment is going to come back to me, right? So that was another thing I had to give up. I had to give up judging, and tons of other things. I had to give up procrastination. I have to give up reactivity and be proactive. I had to give up selfishness and really think about every single person, really think of win-win for my employees, for my clients, for the community. Really, to really think that you have to give up that, because at some point you sort of, when you feel entitled for success or fact that you deserve success, you start sort of thinking inwards, and that really stops you from thinking win-win. And as an entrepreneur, you have to think win-win, not just win-win for profit and all the stakeholders, but for win-win for the planet, for the people, for the community, for everyone in essence, right? And with that, so I had to give up selfishness. I had to give up expectations of the future. I had to give up staying in the past and staying in the future, and just completely being in the present, in this moment. And what impact can I have in that very particular moment? I had to give up multitasking, by the way. I thought I was the world's best multitasker, and that
Wow.
prevented me from being in the present. I just wasn't able to fully focus, fully be there, and I was always
It's really
multitasking.
difficult, you know,
It's very
to,
difficult, right? You get taught that, hey, you know what, I mean, can you multitask, can you do 10 different things? And I was able to do 10 different things, but I was giving 10% of mine in 10 different things. So what's the big deal? I mean, how is it impacting anyone in essence, right? So I had to
uh,
give that up. So yeah, a lot of things I had to give up. I could write a book on that. But yeah, just to give you some flavor there.
I like that. Thank you so much for sharing. If you were to start another business, Kundan, what might it be and why?
If I had to start another business, I mean, yeah, I mean, to be honest, right? I mean, business or what you are doing in business. I mean, yeah, I mean, obviously I love technology. I've gained experience in technology. That's why I'm in the business of technology in essence, right? But the real reason why I do business, or why I became an entrepreneur, I mean, as a student, as when I was in university, even as a child, I just enjoyed helping people. I enjoyed how it made me feel when I was of use to someone, when I made an impact on someone, when I was able to like find a solution for someone. I just enjoyed that, right? And that's in my business. We are solving problems every single day. Hey, you have a challenge, you're not able to get customers, you're not able to do keep your employees happy. Okay, how can we build an application that can solve you those problems? So you're solving problems every single day, and that's what I enjoy. At the end of the day, I don't enjoy helping people, I enjoy solving problems for them. So if it's another business, it'll probably be in the same lines of enjoying people and helping other people in whichever way possible. I'll obviously pick something that I've gained experience in. Luckily, I mean, apart from my core business, I do have investments in 50 other startups, and as an advisor or playing some sort of a role. So I might pick up one of them. I mean, one of my current startups is a passion project of mine, because it's called Equo. We, in essence, we are building a platform like you are, to connect startups and mostly small businesses. I mean, they don't have to be a tech startup necessarily, and providing them resources. So connecting them to the right investors, the right funding, the right advisors, the right co-founders. They're basically getting rid of the barriers. Like you are trying to get rid of the barriers for immigrant entrepreneurs. We want to get rid of barriers for all entrepreneurs in essence, and figure out how we can do that, how we can provide them funding at the right time, make sure we are guiding them in the right direction. So that's something I'm extremely passionate about. And that's probably the startup among my portfolio companies where I spend most amount of time in. So yeah, maybe I would pick that up if I if I was to give up my full-time job. But to be very honest, I mean, I'd rather I enjoy what I do. Just continue to build relationships, make meaningful contributions, and rest of the time I would just meditate and relax and spend time with the family and put my time out and wherever I'm making an impact. So that's probably where I see transitioning.
Nice. I know the EQ actually from one of my friend Barry, who was one of our speakers actually before COVID when we actually host an event. So could you tell us a little bit about EQ and you guys do at EQ.
Yeah, certainly. So yeah, Barry, he's the CEO of Equo. We are partners there, and yeah, I mean, a very passionate individual who 3 years ago we met, and he had this vision. Interestingly, at the same time, I had a similar vision, but more so for the companies that AppLab is already helping. And my thought was, how do I scale the kind of help I'm providing to all these companies, all the startups that we are working with, which was by because otherwise, I mean, I'm spending a lot of time trying to guide them, and I'm duplicating my effort in terms of the advice I'm giving them, or the connections I'm making, and whatnot. So I wanted to create a platform to help my startups. And when he came, I was like, yeah, I mean, all entrepreneurs have the same issue. So yeah, so let's broaden the vision. Let's work together and make this happen, right? So in essence, I mean, phase one right now, what we are doing is you onboard as a startup or as a small business on the platform. Doesn't matter which sector you are in, and we have a great matchmaking algorithm powered by AI that connects you with the right investors, the right funders, whether it's banks, whether it's lenders, whether it's different sources of capital, individual angels who otherwise you won't have access to. Capital sources like invoice refactoring, which again most entrepreneurs may not even know about, different forms of lending based on what type of a company you are in essence, and ensuring that we are covering as many of those niches as possible so that we can do a better job of personalized connections and whatnot. So that's where we are in phase one. But the core problem we see is getting funding in order to grow your company, in order to establish your company in essence. So we are doing that in phase one, and phase two will continue evolving it as a community to again provide help where any project you're starting, how can you get the right team in place, which is advisors and co-founders and your core team in place. How do we make sure that we provide you access to all possible resources, I mean third parties or a true marketplace for anyone who wants to help entrepreneurs, and vice versa? How can we create that in essence? So yeah, so the vision is big, to help every single entrepreneur in Canada and then hopefully the whole world. But you're starting with that one fundamental problem of funding and then growing from there.
Perfect. Did you have any mentors, or did you figure it out all your own?
Yeah, I mean, it'll be very, I guess, um, uh, disillusioned of me if I think I did it all on my own. So definitely not. I mean, whatever success I've achieved, it's completely owing to just being blessed with amazing people in my life, all around, right? My amazing family, my wife, my mother, my daughter now. They've just been an amazing support for me, and I would say they also, I mean, I would consider them under the mentors I've had because I've learned a lot from them, and that support has been immense. I've been fortunate to have some amazing people in my team throughout the years, and I mean, they are the people who do it. I mean, a lot of times I don't even know what's happening on a particular project because they are taking care of it, making sure that they're achieving the results and whatnot. So I've been very fortunate. And then I've had mentors who've advisors, personal mentors who've truly helped. I mean, the early part of the journey, you asked me what I would do differently. One of the things, I would get mentors sooner, right? I mean, a lot of times that fear of judgment that I talked about stops you from reaching out to people and asking for help, right? Because you feel, well, I'll seem vulnerable if I ask for help. But no, I mean, ask for help. I mean, people ask me to be a mentor all the time, and I'm happy to do that because I gain from it, right? I mean, when I'm talking to someone who's young, who has that enthusiasm, has that exuberance, I gain from it because I mean I've lost some of that over the years. So I mean there's so many new things I learned from just the new perspective, the new point of views and the ways of looking at life, and what their aspirations are. So every mentor gains from the mentee relationship in many ways, even more than the mentees, right? Because not all mentees necessarily have at that age, especially young
Yep.
mentees, have that mindset to gain the most from that relationship, whereas a lot of mentors have that mindset to gain most from it, right? So ask for that and then truly be open, right? Like without that fear of judgment of what they will feel of me, will they think of me as too little or whatever that is. Just reaching out, I think, is so important, and I wish I'd done more of that in essence. But as of now, I'm just blessed to have some amazing mentors, some business partners who have been phenomenal, and I wouldn't be what I am, and I can do what I do today without them, without their support, by just gaining from their experiences of how they've solved some of the challenges, and getting that experience share. I'm also fortunate to be part of some peer advisory forums, and these are amazing. And when you start the business, you don't even know that these exist, but they exist, and these are fantastic because you work with peers. I mean, other entrepreneurs, other CEOs who are in the journey, and you don't advise each other. You tell
Exactly.
you express what's the challenge, and then everyone else just shares their experience, and that's fantastic because advice doesn't work, navigation works, and to navigate, you need to
Mm.
understand how other people have experienced that, other peers have experienced that, and try to mold it in your own experience, in your
I
own
like
pro
that.
your own solution. So that's very important to, I mean,
Mm.
a formal group always helps, but if you don't have, I mean, have that relationship with as many of your peers and as
Mhm.
many of people who are senior to you, so that you can learn from those experiences. We I mean, as humans, we learn best from other people, and but for that we need an open mind. We need to be free of that ego and judgment in order to truly learn as much as possible.
Mm, definitely. Do you think having an early mentor or coach would be a shortcut for new immigrant entrepreneurs so looking to start their business in Canada?
Oh, certainly, certainly. I mean, see, the thing is, at the end of the day, you're still going to make the mistakes, and you're going to learn from the mistakes, because as humans, we just learn from our mistakes faster than anything else. So it's good to make those mistakes. I didn't make enough mistakes earlier on, or I didn't allow myself to make enough mistakes earlier on, and I wish I did that. But extremely important. I mean, yeah, let yourself fail and do it. But wherever possible, I mean, having those mentors will just help you in terms of getting faster, because if you learn every single thing, you learn from making a mistake, which is great, but rather learn the important things from making those mistakes. All the small things, you don't need to make those mistakes because the information is already there. There are certain things that are unknown. Your specific type of business, if no one has ever done it, then no one knows, to be very honest. And
Yep.
someone might give you experience share or advice, but the
Mm,
chances of that being true are just 50%, right? So it's
mm,
50% left. Good chance that you might fail, because 50% is very high in terms of odds.
yeah.
So make the mistakes on the big things, right? But on the small things, I mean, the information's there. So learn, have an open mind, and having those mentors just allows you to just learn so much faster in essence, right? So definitely a shortcut to getting on the path to yeah, saving like years in that journey. I wouldn't say days or weeks or months, years you could save by having a right mentor relationship. And I mean, you need to be picky about the mentors you pick as well, right? They need to be good humans. They need to be people that gel with you, with your personality, that you need to get along, you need to have a good time, right? So make sure you pick the right people who are
Very
aligned.
important. Yeah.
Very important. And for that, you need to be in search. It's not easy to find the right
Yeah.
mentor. I mean, I didn't have enough mentors earlier on, but I made it a point. I was learning from every single person. I've always been a positive person where I look at the good things in every single individual. And I always made a point of that. Oh, wow, I admire this about this person. And by admiring it, I was acknowledging it. By acknowledging it, I was trying to incorporate that into my own life as much as possible, and asking questions and being curious about, hey, you do that well. How did you do that? You got there. How did you get there? So just asking those questions, you can
Uh,
technically make everyone around you your mentor. And that's one way of doing it till you find that mentor. But when you're doing that, in a way, you're interviewing your mentor. When you ask those questions, now you know, hey, you know what? This guy always helps me out. This guy always has great questions which inspire me, and we get along. Okay, great. Then maybe this can be my mentor. And it doesn't have to be one mentor, it can be multiple mentors, anyways. But always be on that journey. I'll definitely recommend. And if it's not, I mean, some of those will convert into mentor relationships. Some of those might convert into friendships. Some of those might convert into clients, into partners, into employees, into whatnot, right? So it's, as an entrepreneur, you need to build that network. All of those are essential for you as an entrepreneur. So you just have
Definitely.
as many conversations as possible, and keep surrounding yourselves with those
Mm,
people.
you're right. Yeah. In what ways, Kundan, are you supporting other immigrant entrepreneurs?
So I do whatever I can. I mentor a bunch of them. So there are a few people that I'll always look out to mentor. I've set certain time for mentorship specifically, so I make it a point to do that. I speak at various events or podcasts just like this one, to provide whatever I can in terms of my own experiences, in essence. Even with mentorship, I don't believe in giving advice to anyone. I believe in sharing my experience, understanding their problems, and sharing relevant experience, and then let them make what they want out of it, and align it to their own journey. So similarly, I mean, sharing experience at these forums, I find it very useful. At the App Lab, we have a very strong internship program for immigrants, immigrant students, obviously, where we will train them, we will provide them enough skill sets and whatnot on both soft and hard skills, in essence, and then we hire majority
How they
of
can
the
apply
interns people
for your program?
on the website. Yeah, you can just go to the website and apply, or you can send me a LinkedIn message, or you could email us at info at the app lab, or jobs at the app lab specifically, to get hold of our HR. So we do that all the time. I'm on board of multiple organizations. I'm on the advisory board for TRIEC, which is Toronto Regional Immigrant Council, Immigrant Employment Councils, which has been the leading authority, not just in Toronto. It says Toronto is a leading authority in Canada when it comes to immigrant policies and so on. And that's been a great experience, along with Senator Ratna Umidwar, who heads it, to be part of those policies. How are we making sure that we have the right programs in place for new immigrants? How do we make sure that some of the challenges they face in terms of soft skills or alignment in terms of their credentials, we're prioritizing them and we're putting them in front of the government. I'm on advisory board for several colleges where I'm because most of these colleges is where most of the new immigrants or immigrant students or young immigrants land in first. So how do we make sure that they get the right soft skills in place? They're aligned with what's happening in the industry. Their journey of settlement is a lot easier and more comfortable. So those are some of the ways. I'm always looking at different ways. I mean, my parents didn't have it easy. I had it easy because I went to university here. I got a chance without any pressure of right away making customers or finding a job. I got a soft landing to make friends, understand culture. My parents didn't necessarily have that way. My wife's parents didn't necessarily have that way.
Exactly.
So they had they had to face a lot more hardships than we did, in many ways, from that perspective. So yeah, so I'm committed to the cause to see however I can help anyone who finds these challenges, and be constantly on the pursuit. Lastly, I mean, as a part of our portfolio, there are a few tech startups and tech solutions that are trying to help immigrants, and maybe Immipreneur is something that we can support as well. So let's see how that goes. But yeah, that's another aspect where, as a part of our Change Lab initiative, so we have a Change Lab initiative that focuses on social good, tech for social good, in essence, in areas of healthcare, environment, and immigrants. So is also one of them, comes under social causes. So we try to help as many entrepreneurs who are focused on creating solutions for new immigrants to help faster settlement or whatever that might be.
That's really
That's
important, and that's my other question actually. According to Stats Canada, mental health of immigrant entrepreneurs, especially actually not immigrant entrepreneurs, basically immigrants, has worsened since the implementation of physical distancing. And I think that's a really important topic at the moment. Do you have any recommendations or suggestions to help immigrants dealing with mental health issues?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised by the start. I would say the mental health of everyone overall has worsened during the pandemic. The
Definitely.
mental health of immigrants in general has always been higher in terms of mental health challenges. The percentage of entrepreneurs in terms of their mental health has always been higher. So if you
Right.
are specifically catering to immigrant entrepreneurs during pandemic, it would have had a much worse hit for sure, right? I
Definitely.
mean, yeah, I mean, what I would say is, I mean, is something similar. I can say, I mean, same happens to our employees at the App Lab, right? And we want to make sure that we prioritize their mental health first and provide them whatever sources and whatnot. So we've tried to be, I can't say we have been because if you say we have been, then we would have had 100% record, right? But that's not the case. We know that there are several people, even within our organization, forget about the community and whatever, even
Yeah.
within our organization that are suffering right now, right? And there's
Mm.
so many challenges, right? You're staying in a home. I mean, I know one of our people was staying at home with entire family in a small apartment, trying to do virtual education. I mean, one of the parent was working outside. He was trying to do work for the app lab while facing all these responsibilities. Very challenging. It's how do you, I mean, how do you perform in that environment and that pressure now, and add to that fear of the unknown in terms of what's happening to my family in my home country right now, where maybe COVID is a bit worse, or
Definitely.
just the fact of the distance. There's always that worry about what's going on, what's happening. I can't help, that helplessness. All of those seep in, right? While the other obvious is where we don't have that social connection. We're not able to meet people. We don't have, even if we have family around us, we are not able to meet them. So all of those are pressures that are adding up, right? And no one's immune to that, to be very honest, right? And it just, I mean, and what I've been doing in terms of our organization is just having the conversation. That's the first step, right? Having a conversation. If, as in position of leadership, I mean, you need to have conversation with your employees, with your circles, and any position. We need to have conversations with our friends, with our families, with people that we know to see if they're doing okay and see how we can help. If you are, and the second part is having conversations when you are feeling something, right? I mean, don't feel that. I mean, I'd like to think, but that's not completely not true. But I'd like to think we have come a long way from the days of social stigma and dogma associated with mental health. But that's not true, as I said. So, but we definitely are, even if we are just a few percentages higher, it's still a big step in terms of what has happened for years and years of that stigma in essence. So I'd still say we've made some progress in essence, and hopefully that allows more people to speak out and seek for help in essence, right? Talk to your friends, talk to people that care about you and will talk to you without any judgment,
I like it.
and have
Yeah.
that open conversation. And that's what we've tried to do, right? Have that open conversation without judgment, with full empathy, and try to lend whatever support when you are in a state of any sort of mental illness. And that doesn't have to get to a worst case in essence, right? Even, I mean, stress, depression, anxiety, anyone can face that. All of us have faced that at
Right.
some point, to be
Yeah.
very honest.
Definitely.
Whatever the stats of mental health are, the true stat is 100%. We all have physical health and mental health. We've all had a cold, much worse than a cold when it comes to our mental health, when it comes to our physical health. Similarly, with our mental health, exactly the same as mental health, we've had our own challenges in essence, right? So no one's immune to it. It's just that maybe we had the right environment around us with the right support system that we were able to come out of it in essence, right? But not necessarily
Yeah.
for everyone in terms of what their situations are. So important that we are all empathetic about it and we have that conversation about it without judgment in essence. That
Yeah.
maybe you are trying to do this, maybe whatever, maybe whatever that might be, right? So it starts with that conversation. But the most important thing I'll say is, especially for someone going through it, is prioritize yourself, right? I mean, the most important aspect when it comes to managing mental health is being proactive about your own health, about your own wellness in essence. And that happens by putting the oxygen mask on first, right? When you're on a plane, they ask you to put the oxygen mask on first, because if you don't put it on, you can't take care of anyone else. You can't take care of any other activities, and you will not survive
I like that.
if something happens in there. So similarly in life, putting that oxygen mask on first is extremely critical. Look
Yeah.
out for your own health. What helps you get the burden off your chest, off your shoulders? What helps you be at calm? What be at ease? And maybe you can think of that. So think of the times when it made you happy, right? Going in nature. Well, it's summer. It's beautiful now. Go in
Wow.
nature. Meditating, do that. Exercising, do that. Whatever helps you. Sleeping, do that. Just being comfortable, do that. So whatever helps you get to that state is important to do that in order to reactively take care of yourself. But then, as soon as possible, especially if you're in that state, get into that proactive state, because mental health challenges can happen any day, anytime. Anytime stress seeps in and we get
Yeah.
into any below the line behavior, as I'd like to call it, whether it's anger or being impulsive or being manipulative, whatever that might be, right? All of those are stress behaviors, meaning a big red flag, red sign, you're not taking care of yourself proactively, in essence, right? So it's very important that we're taking care of our health proactively by, for me, what works is waking up at 5 a.m. in the morning, exercising, making sure I'm sweating to get rid of cortisol, because cortisol can kill you. I mean, in terms of stress, and stress kills you. Making sure that I'm meditating. It's very important for me to be in that state of calm for 20 minutes, because that serves as a reminder for me for the entire day of that I need to be mindful. I don't need to jump into something. I always
Yeah.
have more than enough time that I think where I can observe, I can listen, I can think, and then react in the right appropriate way. So very important for me to meditate and to get into that mindset where I'm relaxed in essence, and learn, because learning expands your mind, right? So making sure you're taking care of your mind, body, soul every single day is important, because when you do it proactively, then you're able to take on challenges, help others, take care of your tasks, take care of whatever you need to, in essence, right? So yeah, that's
Definitely.
what I'll simply say.
Thanks for sharing that. Who is your biggest support when facing hardship in your business?
Um, when I'm facing hardship in my business, so one of my business partners, he's probably my biggest support. He's my main mentor. He's my go-to person. So he's, I would say, is my biggest support in essence. But I mean, again, I just rely on my entire team, right? If I'm facing a challenge, I'll talk it out with the team with openness. Extremely important as an entrepreneur that you don't fear feedback. In fact, you look at feedback as a true gift, right? Because feedback is where you get an opportunity to learn, and opportunity to learn where it means you have an opportunity to grow, in essence, right? So that mindset is important. Otherwise, you'll always be defensive when it comes to getting a feedback and, oh, no, I didn't do that, or whatever that is, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so I lean on my team, asking those questions and being honest that, hey, I don't know the answer to this, but I'm seeking to see if there are any thoughts, if there are any ideas here, right? And more often than not, they'll at least get them thinking. If I don't get a great idea out of it, at least they feel they're being heard, and truly the case, right? I'm actually trying for them to speak up and have an opinion, but in most cases I do get great ideas of it. And the peer mentorship groups, as I mentioned, right? I'm part of two of them, YPO, Macasio forums. I have some fantastic people in my peer network. So every month I get to meet them. And one big problem that I'm facing, I get to table it. And they usually are great in terms of providing their experiences, which gives me like a lot of different nuggets to say, maybe I can do that. Maybe I should try that. Maybe I should try that. And then I tried, I experimented, and hopefully something works out in this. And so yeah,
That's
multiple ways of tackling it.
yeah, perfect. Have you ever felt that you're not accepted because of your background, nationality, or skin color?
Yeah, not directly, I would say. I mean, early days, especially when I was at university, there were times where I felt that. I felt it was, again, I personally feel that was more of me than them in a sense. I mean, yeah, and again, at the end of the day, it comes to the fear of unknown, right? I mean, I look at a certain way, so they might make certain assumptions based on someone else that they've met like me, or just being clueless, right, in terms of what I need or how I act or whatever that is. And same happens on my side as well, right? Where I mean, at that point, I mean, just not knowing like who these people are, what their language is, what they're trying to, how are they trying to react, and so on and so forth, right? So that just builds those judgments against each other, and we make those assumptions, and those assumptions lead to us not necessarily having positive feelings for each other, right? So yeah, so I felt that multiple times, but I've learned from those situations where I mean, going in, I mean, facing it, right? I mean, you have that, you feel that fear that, oh, I don't know if I should approach. Seems like those four are having a good chat. I may not fit in. What will they say? What will they do? Whatever. And I've just learned facing that on, right? I mean, if I feel that butterflies in my stomach for whatever reason, I mean, and that's the biggest, that's one advice I always give to any new immigrant, right? I mean, face your fears, step out of your comfort zone, right? Whenever you have an opportunity to step off your comfort out of your comfort zone, that's a great opportunity to learn. That's an opportunity where you will learn the most, you'll grow the most, right? So take that on, because not because, oh shit, I'm afraid of it, but because, oh wow, I don't know when was the last time I got an opportunity to grow as much, and here's an opportunity where I can learn and grow from, right? And going with that positive mindset. So that's what I've like sort of tried to instill in myself. When I feel that, oh, this is, the situation is creating some kind of a tension inside. So let's face it, and I'll face it with positivity. In essence, I'll go in there, I'll do an icebreaker, I'll tell them who I am, I'll find some common ground, I'll just go with a full open mind. I won't necessarily look at, oh, maybe this person is not looking at me right, or whatever. They're saying something which is probably insulting or rude. I will completely ignore that and just focus on positive rebuilding, because that initial time that's taken to break the ice, yeah, the different behaviors might come out of that. But once you get aligned, you're past that, and then you'll see a totally different result, because that unknown, it takes some time to break that unknown. And once that, until the unknown exists, the fear of unknown exists as well on both sides. So it needs some time, and when you put that time in, you'll come out of that with a totally different feeling, in essence, right? And in many ways, I felt that I need to do that more often, because I need to create a good role model out of who I represent, in terms of whether it's the color, or the country that I grew up in, or other people in my community, or whatever that is. And I wanted to especially when I'm feeling good, when I know that I'm positive right now, when I know that I'm not in my stress behavior, I want to take up those opportunities, and try to create that role model. But more so, very
Yeah.
simply put, not with that pressure. I just want to know these people. I want to have a connection. I want to learn more about them, because a lot of times that fear of unknown just stops us from having that full diverse feeling, right? And as an entrepreneur, you can get into that trap and just hire the same kind of people, because that's what you know. You can trust them. You know that that's what you can expect them, and
Yeah.
that's not a good thing, because then you stop getting that diverse set of perspectives. And those diverse set of perspectives, even if they may be different, even if that might cause clashes, those are extremely important to be successful, to be innovative, to really tackle whatever challenges you're tackling as a business. So getting that is extremely important.
Yeah. This is one of the best answered answers I received for the last few interviews. Let's face it, it's really important to face your fears. Uh, Thank you
And
so
when you
much,
see,
Christine.
right, when you
Yeah,
see more all the issues that have come up because of that problem that you mentioned, right? I
yeah,
mean, hate crime, I mean, things that have gone in the worst or the extreme aspect, right? What's the source of that? The source of that is fear of unknown, right? People don't know how to react. They make assumptions about it. Now, one person made assumption about two people making the same assumptions. They came together and they started validating their thoughts. Oh, you thought that as well? I thought that as well. Maybe this person is to be blamed, right? Maybe these people are causing these issues in the world that we live in. And now three people came in, four people. Now all of them feel the same way. No one really validated the facts, or really stepped out, or talked to the person, or got to know them. They just started
yeah,
building that assumption, all with that same fear of unknown. And that fear of unknown just gripped all of them together. And then it gets to us where that, mixed with mental health, pandemic, whatever that is, ends
yeah,
up someone taking a step that's extremely heinous, and something that no one is proud of, in essence, right? But and as much as whatever you can do, at that level, when that person did that, call them a terrorist or give them capital punishment, whatever you do, all justified, but doesn't solve the problem, doesn't solve the
Exactly.
core problem of that fear of unknown. And how do you resolve that? Get the unknown away. Get people to meet with each other, mingle with each other, get to know each other, create as many forums as possible that diverse people can get to understand each other, not just because, oh, we are trying to be diverse, but because there is benefit in that. There's value in diversity. There's value in diversity of sure color, background, whatever, but there's value in diversity of thoughts. And that background, that belief, that sort of where the country that they grew up in just brings an additional diversity. That gender brings that additional diversity, and that really adds value to each of us in essence. And that's extremely important, that we really we realize that there's benefit in that, and hence we need to do more of that and get rid of that unknown.
Exactly. Thanks for sharing that, Kundan. Um, I know that you answered this question earlier, but I would like to ask you one more time. If you had to start all over again with your current knowledge and experience in today's world with today's tools, time constraint, and other factors, what would you do differently?
Sure. Sorry, I just wanted to check when's my next meeting. That's okay. It's not important. Yeah. What would I do differently? To be honest, I mean, again, I focus on being in the present, right? So I have no regrets that what I've learned right now is something that I should have learned earlier. So I have no regrets because it happens with time. It happens for a reason. I'm a big believer in destiny and so on. So it's all good from that. But I do wonder sometimes, right? Not regret, but do wonder sometimes that the experience that I have right now, what I've learned through it, not just the experience, but what I've learned through it, what I have, how I've interpreted that experience, the insights that I've gotten from that experience, if I had them 20 years ago when I started out my career, how much more impact I could have made, how many more lives I could have touched. So I do wonder sometimes, and that doesn't necessarily. I make sure that that doesn't translate into guilt, but that translates into that want to ensure that other 20-year-olds, other 25-year-olds can learn from that experience that I've gained, and other people that I know who have gained those insights and that experience can share, and make sure that a lot more people can be benefited from it as well. But from that, I mean, it's purely is that mindset, right? I mean, if I was to start from fresh, when I was a 24-year-old, yeah, 24-year-old when I graduated, I would have loved to start with that mindset of not having fear of failure, not having fear of judgment. I don't think I was judgmental at that time. That happened over time of entrepreneurship, but not having that fear of judgment was definitely there. So that would have really helped me grow and expand, and again just bring more people into my circle and have many more positive relationships, regardless of the differences. Right? Sometimes those differences create those barriers, and they'll create those again, that fear creates tension, and lost opportunities, right? So yeah, so that would be fantastic. Um, yeah, just going in with full compassion and belief, right? I mean, there's some magic to that, in essence, right? Where I mean, you. See, the thing is, sometimes we get very transactional as humans, where we feel that we need to help someone based on the help that we can get from them, right?
Yeah.
But I'm a truly believe in the universal philosophy that whatever you give, you're not giving to that individual, you're investing into the universe in essence, right? And again, right? Uh, I had heard of that even in early days, because I hadn't experienced it, I felt it was a hoax. And maybe, I took it positively, but there was a part of me which was like, I don't know if that's really true or not, right? So there was that question in my mind. But because I've seen that, right? When I'm in the process of giving and trying to contribute in every single opportunity, I'll get it back I'll get positivity back. I'll get help back from completely unknown, undefined sources, which I didn't expect, right? And the main reason for that is that mindset, right? When your mindset is to give, you get without even asking for it from the people or from sources that you didn't ask from it for, right? I mean, and that mindset is the real attractor in essence. And hence, starting
Yeah.
with that mindset of purely focusing on giving and helping
Mm.
and just doing whatever you can in essence, while still being aligned with your goals, aligned with where the direction you are going in. Because truly, I mean, as humans, we can't go in hundreds of different directions. We need to go in one path and just
Definitely.
keep
Yeah.
committing towards helping and providing that value and just focusing on that value in essence. And what you'll get, you will just keep getting in essence, right? So that mindset, would love to start anything with that mindset. And uh, yeah, and the other part I would say is I would like get the best people on my team without any compromises in essence, right? Sometimes you feel that I'm a small business, I'm not sure if I can hire the best talent, can I even find someone that's best suited for this job? But it starts with asking, right? I mean, you can always ask. I mean, today's technology market might be difficult, but still you can ask, you can try in essence, right? So yeah, so without any compromises, because I did make some compromises, which because I, and not because I didn't know better, but because I prioritize the wrong things, right? I prioritize, you know what, I want to pay the least, and maybe this is the person is I'll be okay with to pay the least, or because, or again, reasons which are not aligned with the key goal and the key objective of what we want to achieve is you want to build the best possible business, get the best possible people, right? If you can't afford them, you can find creative ways, right? You can always
That's
find
very
that
important.
work around, but don't start with okay, this budget, what person I can get, because people are not tangible that way in essence, right? People are assets, and look at people as people and just try to get the best possible people. If you don't end up getting that person who's a marketing whiz, for example, as your CMO, that's okay. Maybe they'll end up being your advisor of marketing, and then whoever you hire might be able to perform their job better because now they have that as an advisor. But you at least asked and you opened that door in essence. So that's other thing that I'll definitely prioritize. The other part is I mentioned it before, working harder, working smarter versus working harder, right? I mean, when you take care of yourself, of your mind, body, and soul, you are just able to work smarter. You are able to work in a more mindful manner, and
Right.
you don't necessarily need to work hard anymore, because when you work hard, there are times of the day when you're extremely tired and you're pushing yourself, you're dragging yourself, and those are the times when you're least creative, when you're not really adding value, and it's a waste, to be very honest.
So
Rather
could
take
you
that time off.
describe your typical day for us?
Typical day. So yeah, wake up at 5 a.m. Go for a run. Do some exercises for at least 20 minutes of exercise routine. Then I'll end up. Luckily, I have a beach right off my backyard, so I'll go to the beach. I'll have a meditation session for 20 minutes. Just get relaxed. Come back home. Get ready. I'll incorporate 20 more minutes of learning, whether it's an audiobook or a book or an event that I can learn from in essence. Then I spend at least 2 hours, so 7 to 9 usually, before the crazy work day starts, to just strategize, to do some quality work on strategic activities on the business, and then I get into the meetings. And now that I've taken care of those like 2 hours of doing any important, urgent, more so important than urgent, but both of them in essence, as much as possible. Now the entire day, 9 to 5, which is usually packed with meetings for me back to back, I can just focus on every single individual that I'm meeting, that I'm talking to, be fully present in that. Then at 5 o'clock, I might have some meetings on and off, but try to around 6 or so, try to wind down, get to my family. I'm talking about during the pandemic times. The times before pandemic looked very different. They may not come back
Yeah,
again. So
totally.
why even talk about them? And spend some quality time with family before, if something requires my attention, I might get to it before going to bed.
Thanks for sharing that. What meetups, local groups, or accelerators do you recommend that helped you grow?
Yeah, so the chambers of commerce were useful. I mean, I not just joined Indo-Canada Chamber of Commerce, but when I was 25 or so, I also started their Young Professionals Division. So I took a leadership role within that organization that got me to be the youngest vice president in Indo-Canada Chamber of Commerce at the age of 26
Nice.
or so. So taking that leadership role was not just about volunteering, but just more opportunities opened up for me. I met more people. I learned a lot more from them. In
Yep.
essence, Board of Trades, I mean, whether it's Toronto Board of Trade, Mississauga Board of Trade, so on. I mean, just being part of them was very useful as well. I took up any opportunity, to be very honest, to meet people, any tech events, conferences. There were tons of them. I wasn't necessarily part of any accelerators. I don't think there were any when I started 13 years back,
Yeah,
but I
correct.
highly recommend. I mean, there are some fantastic accelerators that we have in Toronto, in the whole Toronto Waterloo corridor. So highly recommend being part of it. Simply at the least, what you'll get out of it, you'll meet some like-minded people. You'll sort of learn from their journeys, but some of them have great programs and resources as well. So highly recommend. And whenever, I mean, once you are generating decent amount of revenue or some revenue, even if it's whatever, 500,000, a million, whatever, you will find organizations like, I mean, I'm part of IPO, I mentioned, but EO, for example, Entrepreneurs Organization, or Tech, or PEO, or there's several of those peer networking forums or peer forums and advisory forums. Highly recommend being a part of those, being a part of those communities where you'll just get to learn tons. I mean, prioritize any. I mean, when I go to an event, I prioritize on learning. Where can I learn the most? Where can I grow from the most? And the good thing about that approach is those events are the events where I meet like-minded people, right? And whether it's
Mm,
my clients or partners or employees, I want to meet like-minded people. So really focusing on what I'm going to learn and making sure we are learning out of it, because when you actually learn through it, I mean, obviously you gain, and that's important. But even when it comes to networking, you just have more meaningful relationships when you're focused on learning through those events and conferences, and you make
yeah,
just those much more stronger connections and a stronger network around you.
yeah. Now what's your approach to marketing?
Approach to marketing, I mean, it starts with building a strong brand, building a strong brand around first really understanding who you are speaking to. So, who's your customer? Who is the customer that you're focused on providing your product or services in essence? Understanding them, really spending time with them in order to put yourself in their shoes. I mean, you need pure empathy. You need to have friends. You need to be hanging out with people who are your customer to understand them really well, and that just allows you to create a much stronger brand that's genuine, that's vulnerable, but at the same time transparent to your audience in essence, because you know them better, you understand them better, and you've built a strong network around them. So when you've built a strong network around them, you understand what their challenges are, what their pain points are, and what's the right solution that you need to create, which you by really validating it through them in essence. Then you can start, those are the seeds of creating that right brand, which is saying the right things, putting out the right content on whatever digital channels or whatnot, or saying the right things in person or virtual meetings, whatnot. And then because you're creating a network around that as well, physically, directly, as well as through the digital channels, then they start converging, where now people, members of that audience, are being influencers of your content, are being influencers of your brand. Now they are commenting on it, they're reacting with it, they're providing that feedback. And then now you are sort of almost, you're doing that, doing those collaborations with them. You're doing you're I mean, and those influencers are, they're organic, right? They're free
Uh,
marketing. I mean, yeah, I mean, you can obviously, I mean, always diversify in terms of paid advertising and all different methods and all of that stuff. But that's always at the core in essence, because I mean, in order to scale your marketing as an entrepreneur, as a startup, as a small business, that organic community that you build, community that's aligned to the persona of your audience, community that's aligned to the problem that you're trying to solve, or problems you're trying to solve, and the community that's aligned to the solutions that you're trying to provide. That's gold. That's going to create amazing brand equity for your brand than any other sources where you do Google ads. They are great, or they might be great till you're running them, not after you take them off, in essence, right? So
Perfect. Who is the most influential person in your life, Kundan?
yeah, I mean, I've just been blessed to have so many of them, right? So I've had great influences from many people. I mean, obviously, my mother, she was an entrepreneur. She had her own salon when I was young. So I saw her doing her own business, and the way she talked to people, the way she was friendly and outgoing. I got very inspired by her. My mother's dad was an entrepreneur, and I mean was a great like person, went from a small village in India to becoming sort of the king of transport in India. I mean, he wasn't, I never met him. He passed away before I was born, but I've just heard so much about him and learned from his example and from his legacy. So I've learned so much from him. My One of my friend's dad, my best friend's dad, he was a big inspiration for me. He's no longer there, but as a young immigrant and a young student and a young graduate, I just got to learn so much from him about people. He was not an entrepreneur, but he was someone that had amazing influence on the community, on his family, on his son's friends, and I just learned about people from him, about caring, about compassion, about creating a legacy. And the legacy for me, I mean, when I saw like hundreds and hundreds of people come to his funeral, and most of them weren't known to the family. I was like, wow, I mean, if there's a legacy, I mean, it's not the dollars or the mansions or the cars or whatever else. The legacy I want is how many people have I touched and created an impact on. And that's and hence he was the inspiration. And I've had amazing friends who serve as an inspiration. I have a great community of entrepreneurs and leaders who have for inspiration. So I'm blessed to have tons of people around me who are always a
Nice.
source of inspiration through what they do, and I keep looking for it because I focus on impact, and whenever someone is creating an impact, I make them as my inspiration, and I want to be in that zone of the zone they are in when they're doing those good things, right? I mean, I may not achieve the same things because my path may not be the same as theirs, but I wanna think of what they are thinking, the mindset they are in when they are able to create that impact, so that I can try to be and have that mindset when I need to be in that zone.
Thank you so much, Kundan. What books would you recommend Imipreneur read to help them with their business or life?
Yeah, I mean, tons of books. I mean, never thought of it from new immigrant or immopreneur standpoint, but I'll start with my favorite books and books that I think will help anyone, right? So when you're starting a startup or a business, especially if it's a tech startup, but I would say any startup, Lean Startup by Eric Ries, I love that book. I think to get started, really understanding how important it is to include your audience and your customers as a part of that business creation and value creation, and making sure that you test it out first before investing too much is so important. So highly recommend Lean Startup book, especially in tech startups, but
Yeah, that's
any
a
business
very great
you can
book,
find.
actually. I'll put in the show notes
Yeah, for
for
sure.
the audience.
Also, Seven Habits of Effective People. I mean, just in terms of as person, I mean, I would highly recommend some habits which are, again, regardless of which culture you're in, they're important. I mean, importance of being proactive, importance of starting with the end in mind, importance of learning, sharpening the saw, constantly learning, being in that mindset. So some amazing learnings from that. as new immigrants, I mean, again, sometimes communication, networking can be
Uh,
challenges. So for reason, the other book I'll recommend is also Dale Carnegie's How to Make Friends and Influence People. Just really
that's a very
breaks
good
it
book.
down, the importance of listening, right? I mean,
Uh,
yeah, we talk about communication in terms of how we can talk and what accent we can talk and all of that stuff. But to listen, you just need to be a human with ears, right? I mean, you don't need whatever accent or whatever communication skills, and to listen with completely being there, fully focused, fully present. It's actually can be done by anyone. It's not easy to do because the principles of it are not necessarily taught in school, but is extremely necessary. So, and that's just one of the principles in that book. So I'll highly recommend that as well, because when you are in a new country and trying to be an entrepreneur, you need to make as many friends as possible and you need to
exactly.
influence as many people as possible. So that's the other one. Those are the
That's a
ones that
great
come to my
book.
mind, but there are tons of others.
Yeah, perfect. Let's move on to the question section, which is this or that round. So this is a quick response around 10 questions. Just one rule here, try not to think about the answer too much. Are you ready?
Sure, let's go.
Hire fast or fire fast?
Hire fast or fire fast? To be honest, both hire fast and fire fast, those are both essential. I'm not that great at fire fast, so hence I'll say hire fast.
Okay. Toronto or Silicon Valley?
Toronto,
Sell to
Silicon
one
Valley
or
story.
sell to, pardon me?
Silicon Valley is the yesterday's thing. Toronto's
Okay,
today.
nice. Sell to one or sell to many?
Sell to one or sell to many? Sell to many.
LinkedIn or Instagram?
LinkedIn, for me, LinkedIn has worked charm.
Physical book or audiobook?
I think I have ADHD. I'll go with audiobook. I love audio summaries that Blinkist and Get Abstract provides. I highly recommend, especially if you have attention deficit or you feel you don't have enough time. I mean, those are amazing. Highly recommend Blinkist and Get Abstract.
Nice. Angel investor or bootstrapping?
Bootstrapping. Um, Always a big fan of bootstrapping to as far as you can, right? I mean, and angel investors find it very attractive as well. Obviously, if it's very high value, I mean, you need to, if you have an option of growing fast, take the action to take that direction to grow fast and scale fast. Obviously, if that option is available to you, but don't waste your time finding angel investors when you have an option to bootstrap and at least get to a level where you can validate your concept, get enough customers that you personally believe in your idea completely so that you can get the others to believe in your idea.
That's really necessary. Thank you for sharing that. Uh, Podcast or YouTube?
Podcast. YouTube has just too much content that's not necessarily verified. I'd rather go with podcasts.
Invest in real estate or digital currency?
Oh, interesting. I need to improve my portfolio on both. So not a great person to give that advice. I'll say digital currency. But to be honest, you can never go wrong with real estate, especially in today's market. With digital currency, you need to learn your grounds first before you get into it. I mean, don't go um, with the trend of the day. Understand the principles better and make the right decisions instead of just trying
Basically,
to.
don't buy emotions, right?
Don't buy emotions, either of the cases, right? Whatever you invest in, don't be an emotional investor, right? Be a smart investor.
uh, Data science or AI?
AI.
Virtual event or physical event?
Physical event. As much as I'm for digital, I still miss seeing people in person, seeing their smile, all of that stuff. Yeah.
Remote working or in office working?
Yeah. My employees might kill me for that answer, but I'll say office working. But we're not going back to that anytime soon. We're likely going into a hybrid model. So it'll be a combination, remote working and office
Hybrid one.
working.
So basically, you're a fan of hybrid one. Perfect.
Hybrid.
You kind of hesitation when I ask you about the hire fast or fire fast. Is there any reason for that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, fire fast is important, to be very honest. When the person is not aligned, it's very easy for an individual um, to create a toxic culture within the organization if it's just not a right person. The reason for my hesitation is I hate preaching things that I don't practice myself, right? And while I know that's right, I don't practice it myself because I just like to give people a chance. I like to inspire them, help them in their journey as much as possible. And some of my executives hate me for that. Some of my board members don't like that about me because I do take a bit longer than I should when it comes to firing, if I do it at all, to be very honest. So yeah, so I don't practice it, and hence, so it's hard for me to preach it. But I do know that if I was advising someone, if I was, I would probably give that advice. But maybe I won't because I won't have much great experience to share there either.
I really believe in that as well, because it's not really helpful for your organization if you keep people on the wrong seat, and you have to actually
And that's an
help them
important one, right?
to choose a right seat. Maybe it's not in the right seat is not in your organizations, and maybe they can find the right seat for
Totally.
their actually
Totally.
journey in other
I agree.
organizations, right?
Agreed.
Okay, great. Well, let's move on to the $10,000 question. So if I was to give you $10,000 and you had to spend over the next few days on a single thing to grow your business, what would you spend it on, and how would you measure success?
Oh, $10,000 won't be enough for anything. Well, change it to $10 million, maybe.
Put your shoes in immigrant entrepreneurs, you know?
Okay, fair enough, fair enough. So backtrack and see where I would have spent the $10,000. Um, hmm. To be honest, just depends on the business, right? For me, I would say I would spend that in sales. So I would again, I would hire a strong salesperson and try to, I mean, experiment for say 2 to 3 months with that $10,000 and see how it
Yeah.
goes, right? 2 months are
Yes.
usually not enough. With 3 months, you usually
Mm.
understand where they are in. So again, for my business, if I was to go back, that's probably where I would spend it as of now. I mean, $10,000 won't be enough even for sales. I mean, unless I have a
Yeah.
window of like a fraction of a month or so.
You're right. Yeah. If you were to write a book about yourself, what would you name it?
Interesting. I think I've done this exercise. What did I say? Equanimity.
Could you repeat that again?
Equanimity.
Okay. Why is that?
So equanimity, I mean, I just love the concept. I love the word. Equanimity basically is the state of mind when you're unaffected by wins or losses, right? I mean, you're still in the state of calm, state of being present, state of being mindful, regardless of what the outcome is. And that's something that, again, I strive to be on the path of that. Just focus on the present, focus on actions, and not be worried or not take the results into equation when I'm focusing on the actions. Obviously, you plan for the results and you make sure that you have the results on the chart, but not get worried about those expectations from your actions, and that creates that state of equanimity. And when you're in that state of equanimity, you can take on any challenge, you can face any fears, in essence, because fears don't you don't qualify them as fears anyways. um and yeah, so yeah, that's what I would call it. I
Perfect.
mean,
Do you accept pre-order? I'll definitely buy your book.
Sure.
If you had a magic stick, which are the three things you would change in the world?
Yeah, get rid of COVID, right? I mean, enough of this.
Definitely.
So I'll get rid of that first. Get rid of cancer as well. Might as well when you're at it, right? So those two things. Third, get rid of hatred, right? I
Mm,
think we could serve a lot better if we don't have
yeah,
hatred for each other, right?
definitely.
Um, and yeah, those three. I guess I covered
Thank you
three.
so much. Let's finish off by shifting the focus to someone else who deserves it. So that's a mega entrepreneur, and basically, mega entrepreneur is a very successful immigrant entrepreneur. Who is a mega entrepreneur that you would like to give a shout out to? What we can learn from them and how we can find them.
Good one. Mega entrepreneur. Okay, I guess the first person that came to my mind, I'm sure there are a lot of them, but first person that came to my mind is buddy of mine, Dunstan Peters. I mean, I just admire him a lot. I love him a lot, and he's just amazing and phenomenal. So yeah, I'll give him a shout. Dunstan Peters, he's extremely successful. He's new immigrant as well, and he's achieved a lot of success. So yeah, I'm
Where can we
inspired by
find
him.
them? Where can we find him? Actually,
You go north on Kipling and then take a right on Dixon. I'm joking. I don't want to send everyone to his office. Uh, I think you can find him on LinkedIn or
LinkedIn.
his
Okay.
website, which is, if I remember, it's trinitytech.com. I think
Could
that's
you
what it's
please
called.
send me that later? Maybe I can
Sure,
actually put it on the show note for
sure,
audience. Thank you so much.
sure. I'll do that.
What final thoughts do you have to help motivate immigrant entrepreneurs to get us started or take their business to the next level?
Yeah, I would say the first one is like embrace, right? I mean, you are in Canada now, right? So embrace, and you're building a business. So in essence, you are trying to create a community in Canada. You're trying to help the people of Canada, although you might have a global business, but you'll start out here, I'm sure, and or you should start out here because you are obviously you have your footing here, and obviously you have a lot to thank for the country that you're living in. So I mean, just embrace Canada as a country, as a nation, regardless of its flaws, which obviously recently we've seen a lot of them, regardless of its challenges, regardless of everything. You've made it your home. It's accepted you as a family member in its home. So embrace it, and try to embrace what Canadian culture is all about. And Canadian culture is not based on a single ethnicity, a single type of a person, a single race, all of that stuff. It's Canadian culture is made up of all Canadian people, and that's the amazing part, that you can learn so much about diversity and building a diverse business and a diverse community from Canada, because the diversity in Canada is phenomenal. Diversity of thoughts,
Definitely.
diversity of cultures, diversity of people. And if Canada truly uses that as its strength, I mean, nothing can stop Canada from being a superpower, because that diversity is of tremendous benefit. And for that, all the immigrants and all the people like who are old immigrants or new immigrants or natives, basically just three,
Yeah.
in Canada, if they all believe in our strength and completely embrace what it means to be a Canadian, and that's by learning from each other, getting to know people around you with empathy, with compassion, and looking to help each other and learn from each other. That I mean, that's how you'll embrace, right? And by becoming a Canadian, right, or fully becoming a Canadian, that doesn't mean that makes you any less of your whatever background. Doesn't make me a less Indian. Doesn't make you a less whichever country you are from, in essence, right? I mean, there's no such thing as, oh, if I'm this country, then I'm not that country, because no, it's not about a race, or it's not about what we eat or what sports we like to watch. It's just about the nature, the values, the character, in essence, right, which are very similar, you'll find at the core. Just like every religion has the same values and the same preachings, similarly, every country or every great country, which Canada is and whichever country you're from is as well, will embrace the same values at the core, right? I mean, there'll be a lot of layers. I mean, maybe those layers are one that motivated you to come to Canada instead of your country. And there are layers about Canada that will make you feel, oh, I don't know. But those layers don't matter, right? So that's the first thing I would say to any new immigrant, and especially to new immigrators, in essence, that just become a true Canadian by embracing it, in essence, right? And then the others are pretty much what I mentioned, right? I mean, just stay focused on your path, get out of your comfort zone, just be in that mindset of constantly learning, get to know as many people as possible. And one aspect which I see a lot of, which is a bridge between a lot of new immigrants that I see and sort of Canadian values, is authenticity, right? Canadian culture, one of the key values in
Yeah.
Canadian culture is authenticity, transparency, integrity. Those are extremely important. Those are valued very high, in essence. So learn about them. What does it mean to be authentic Canadian, a transparent Canadian, a Canadian with integrity, and then align yourself to these values, because those are with everyone, in essence, right? And that
Yeah,
will make it a lot easier.
definitely. Where can our audience connect with you online?
LinkedIn is usually the best way. So, I mean, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Our website, www.theapplab.com, the app lab with two B's.com, is a great source for jobs. If you want to hire us, whichever way, that's a great spot. Again, LinkedIn for App Lab, our LinkedIn channel, our Twitter channel, our Facebook channel, any social channels are active. I just don't accept many people on my Facebook. It's more for personal network. Whereas on LinkedIn, I'll accept connections from anyone and everyone. At some point, if you're not actively talking or speaking, because I'm at my quota of 30,000 people, sometimes I have to remove people, or you might have just the option to follow me if I don't get there. But otherwise, again, I'm on Instagram as well, a bit more of a personal messaging on Instagram, but again, open to follow for anyone. AppLab is again on all the social channels, as I mentioned. So yeah, follow us any social channels that you prefer. Our website is obviously there if you need to reach out to us in any shape or form.
Perfect. Kundan, thank you so much for coming and inspiring all the immigrant entrepreneurs listening. And I'm so honored to share your story. I wish you all the best of success, and I hope to stay connected.
Thank you, Mo. I enjoyed this a lot, and wish you the best on this show as well as with your platform. I truly think that it's something that's very important. The cause that you are working on is very important. It's extremely important to create. Let's just make the journey a lot easier by sharing experiences, and those are the easiest ways to remove the barriers or perceived barriers that are faced by new immigrants and new immigrant entrepreneurs. And what you're doing is fantastic. That will help. Again, that will help new entrepreneurs, new immigrant entrepreneurs, but it'll also help our economy. It'll help our like Canada to be stronger, more innovative, have a better GDP, all of that stuff, which benefits all of us. So yeah, wish you the best with your mission, and I'll be happy to help anytime.
Thank you so much, Kundan. You've been listening to Immipreneur Show with me, Mo Mojahed. Come back next week to hear more steps and missteps successful immipreneurs took on path to success. I'd like to invite you to check out our website at immip.net, that's immip.net, and join the community of immigrant entrepreneurs and download an action plan that we put together for you, as well as the show notes. That's immip.net/show. And if you have any questions, send me an email to mo@immip.net, and I may just answer in a future episode. And don't forget to share this episode with people that you love, that you care about, that you're leading, that inspire you. So God bless you all, and have a great day.